Hello friends, Sarah Sunstone here, and welcome back to Thinking Out Loud. In today's episode, we'll be chatting about the Nintendo Switch 2, including what we know so far about the console, what we can expect for the big reveal, and what I would like to see for this new generation. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. At this time, we are just weeks away from the big Nintendo Direct, which is taking place on April 2nd at 9 o'clock a.m. EST, 6 o'clock a.m. PST, and 2 o'clock p.m. UK time. Nintendo has stated that this Direct will reveal more technical specifications for the new console and a closer look at the Switch 2. Although we will have to wait until this presentation to confirm many details, here's what we know so far. First of all, the Switch 2 is bigger overall, which was demonstrated in the revealed trailer by comparing it with the current Switch. The Switch 2 will have a larger display size and thinner bezels. However, of course, specific dimensions have yet to be confirmed. The body of the Switch 2 will also have a redesigned kickstand that looks much more durable and will offer more flexibility in terms of angles. The Joy-Con also appear to have been improved. Not only are they bigger, but they will also connect to the console in a new way by snapping onto the main console rather than sliding. It has been speculated that this will involve a magnetic connection, however, we will have to wait for official confirmation on this to be certain. Speaking of Joy-Con, one of the more mysterious Switch 2 features is an extra button that has been added to the right Joy-Con controller. Its purpose remains unknown. There might be another new feature added to the Joy-Cons according to a patent that was filed by Nintendo, suggesting that the Switch 2 Joy-Cons will have mouse-like functionality, which was also teased in the reveal trailer when the Joy-Cons were shown sliding along a surface. It appears that both Joy-Con will have this mouse feature, so it will be very interesting to see how exactly this is leveraged in the design of software for the Switch 2. There's also an additional USB-C port, so there is now one at the top and also one on the bottom of the Switch 2. This is actually a bigger deal than you might initially think because it will allow you to use more than one Switch accessory at the same time. Finally, for hardware, the dock has also been redesigned, featuring softer rounded edges and more of the display being visible when docked. In terms of software, the only thing that has been officially revealed so far is the new Mario Kart title. However, we don't have any details beyond this from Nintendo themselves. In terms of third party, Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, has gone on record saying that he looks forward to working with Nintendo during this new era, so we can also likely expect plenty of support from Xbox Studios on the Switch 2. One thing that has been confirmed is that the Switch 2 will be backwards compatible with the current Nintendo Switch, so you will be able to play your existing library of both physical and digital games, with a few exceptions, on the next console. Of course, many of the unknowns will be addressed in the upcoming Nintendo Direct presentation, so to inform what we might be able to expect here, let's roll it back to 2017 when Nintendo hosted their Switch presentation. This focused on showcasing the hardware itself, including its unique features and what the gameplay experience would be like for users, which included how the Joy-Cons specifically could be used to provide new gameplay experiences. This segued into showcasing new first-party titles that would take advantage of the Joy-Cons' new technology, including 1-2 Switch and ARMS. Next, Nintendo revealed Splatoon 2 and Super Mario Odyssey as additional new first-party titles. The presentation then moved into revealing third-party support for the launch year, which included Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Fire Emblem Warriors. However, they also introduced the full lineup of official third-party collaborators, plus how many games were currently in development for the Switch. Representatives from Sega, Bethesda, Grasshopper, and EA also shared their own announcements in support of the Nintendo Switch. Back to the hardware, varying SKUs and peripherals were revealed for the family of systems, which at the time included the Pro Controller, 2 color variations of the console, and what would be included in the box at launch, plus some other retail-specific matters. Finally, the show closed out with the release date for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Based on this, combined with what we know so far about the Switch 2, in the upcoming Nintendo Direct, we can likely expect a good portion of the presentation to focus on the hardware itself, diving into more specifics and addressing unknowns, like the functionality of the additional button on the right Joy-Con and the new mouse functionality of both Joy-Cons. While this is all merely speculation, we might see a new first-party title from Nintendo that takes full advantage of the new technology, similar to 1-2 Switch. This is a fairly common practice for new consoles with new technology to showcase, because it helps them not only to sell the system's new features with an experience, but also sets the standard for what is possible for future game development in terms of both first and third-party support. They will also most likely fully reveal the next entry in the Mario Kart series in this presentation, and there is a possibility for other first-party reveals. Specifically, it wouldn't be unreasonable to expect a release date for the long-awaited Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, which is set to release on the Nintendo Switch this year. However, it might also be a launch title for Switch 2 to further highlight its backwards compatibility, or perhaps even the potential for upgraded versions of existing Nintendo Switch games, which we'll talk more about later. I do believe that we are due for a new 3D Mario game as well, in the same vein as Odyssey or Galaxy, for example. But beyond these safer bets for first-party reveals, it's likely that a significant portion of the Direct will showcase the extensive third-party support that the console will have. As for additional SKUs, I imagine that we might get 2 color options at launch, similar to the original Switch, and perhaps even a newly designed Pro Controller that would be more compatible with the new Joy-Con features. However, they'll likely save announcements on other product types for the future and focus all of this on the original Switch 2. So now that we're moving more towards speculation territory, here's what I personally would like to see at this presentation and in general when it comes to the Nintendo Switch 2. First of all, for the hardware specifically, I would like to see longer battery life for handheld mode, along with the ability to play games at 4K resolution when docked. Now, this 4K is more likely to be achieved through upscaling technology versus actually running natively at 4K. However, I think as long as it looks good on 4K TVs, then that's fine by me. I'm also hoping that the new dock has been designed in a way that minimizes the possibility for the screen to get scratched, because I feel like this was definitely one of the more concerning flaws with the previous system. Now let's move on to discussing the Joy-Con specifically. Of course, I need the issues with joystick drift to be fixed once and for all, because I feel that this ongoing issue with the Joy-Cons was unacceptable and not consumer friendly at all. So at the bare minimum, I hope they've solved the issue for the Switch 2, but next, I'm also very curious to better understand how exactly the Joy-Cons will attach to the console itself, and hope that it's an improvement compared to how they slide on to attach on the current system. As I previously mentioned, there is speculation that this will be achieved with magnets, and although simply gaining more information on this alongside product demonstrations will be helpful, this seems like one of those features that I will personally need to feel myself to get a better idea on whether or not I'll like it. The one thing that does worry me is with regards to the pieces that are attached to the console itself, where the Joy-Cons will presumably fit over top of. I'm really hoping that this is incredibly sturdy in its design and there is minimal risk for these to snap off or become damaged just with regular use, because repairing or replacing the console itself is a much bigger concern and a much bigger issue than simply swapping out the Joy-Cons. So only time will tell on this one. I'm also curious about how they will offer Joy-Con color variations, because in the trailer, the inner pieces are actually colored to match the Joy-Cons. Perhaps this is just an aesthetic choice in its design, so we might all just have mismatched consoles and Joy-Cons. Now, a couple of things I'd like to see in terms of new functionality. Honestly, with the new mouse features, I just want to see how this is going to be reasonably implemented into game design, and from there, I actually want those features to be fully taken advantage of. I feel like oftentimes, consoles will have these new amazing features, and then only a select few titles will use them in their design. For example, did you know that your current Switch actually has a camera in the right Joy-Con? Go take a look right now at the bottom of the controller. Yeah, it's right there. However, I can actually count on my 2 hands how many games have used this camera at all. So with regards to those new mouse features, I could see this being a great fit for cozy point-and-click games, like Unpacking, for example. But beyond this, I would love to see some demonstrations on other innovative ways this feature could be used in game design. Another new feature in the hardware of the Switch 2 that opens a door of possibilities is the additional USB-C port located at the top of the console. As I previously mentioned, this allows for 2 peripherals to be used at the same time, but I wonder how creative hardware and software developers could get with this. For example, could we see a camera or a microphone attachment? Or even a second screen that could be attached to the top of the console? If so, then what's to stop Nintendo from porting over their catalog of DS and 3DS games to be playable on the Switch 2 in handheld mode. While in an ideal world, I personally would love to see the Nintendo Switch 2 launch with an OLED screen. It's more likely that it will launch with an LCD screen to keep the cost down, and then Nintendo will likely later on introduce an OLED model. There could also be light versions of the Switch 2, or a new variation altogether that could be either more or less budget-friendly, depending on the goals. I also hope to see upgraded versions of existing Nintendo Switch software, especially the heavy hitters like Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, for example. Maybe even Animal Crossing New Horizons in 4K. Even though these games already look amazing, an upgrade could be really nice, as long as they offer them at a very minimal cost for consumers. Hopefully many of these questions will be answered in the coming months, but in the meantime, please feel free to let me know what you would like to see from the Nintendo Switch 2. For me personally, the upcoming Direct will likely help to solidify whether or not I'd like to get the Switch 2 console at launch, and much of that will be determined by how many of my questions are answered, which features that I'd like to see are actually there, and the confirmed catalog of games we can expect within the first year. Of course, it would be a dream to have a new Animal Crossing game, and that would be a console seller for me, hands down, no questions asked, but I think that's a pretty lofty dream, and I definitely don't expect to see that anytime soon. I think New Horizons is a very solid game that is still doing incredibly well, and there isn't really the need for a new entry in the series at this time from Nintendo's perspective, especially since they're learning over time that their first-party titles can last longer and longer, and they keep selling. I mean, look at Mario Kart 8. That game has been around for over a decade, with several expansions added before moving on to an all-new entry in the series. The only first-party title that I can think of that could sell the system to me personally at this point would be a new Odyssey type game, a new Luigi's Mansion, or something along those lines. Because otherwise, in terms of third-party support, I'm personally just going to be playing those games on my PS5 because it is my preferred console, and more powerful than the Switch 2 will be, it just wouldn't make sense for me to play a lesser version of a game when I have other options. So for me, it really will come down to the first-party catalog of games, but let me know what will be the deciding factor for you. Anything and everything, you know I always love hearing from you. And with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I love you all, and until next time, take care.